Welcome back to the Roy Works channel. In today's video, it's a big day. We're going to start doing drywall in Shane's house. A lot's been going on since the last time I made a video. Tracy and Shane have made this rock wall to kind of clean up the front end of the house. They also put some edging along that garden. It's spring 2022 and a lot is growing around here. I'm going to give you a quick lowdown on what's been going on. So in different parts of the property, there are these trees that are kind of like specialty trees that are called tulip trees, and they flower during different times of the year. So Tracy put on Facebook Marketplace an ad to see if any people wanted to get these pieces and get these trees. So Tracy and her mom, Brenda, are getting ready to welcome the people that are going to come and get these trees. How you guys doing this
morning?
Good,
how are you doing?
Good, good. So over in this area, there's a cluster of all those different type of trees. And they're going to also get rid of some of these. What are these called? These plant trees?
Those are daylilies.
Daylilies. So we've got to a good point in the yard where it's all cleaned up. Shane's been doing a lot of cleanup, trying to straighten out the yard, which it's looking really good. He's made it a little fire pit. We actually vented out the attic. The attic in this house was never vented, and you could tell it definitely was given signs that it wasn't vented, so we made up a quick makeshift grill there just to be able to cover the openings so no rain and stuff got in there. Those are just temporary. But let's get back to the drywall. So there isn't really a lot of drywall that needs to be done, but definitely in specific areas we just have to clean up some of these walls in this area that we added on to. Shane is putting in the corner bead now. That's going to receive the drywall in those corners. We're using the green all-purpose compound. This is definitely good to use for the base layers of the compound. It's a stronger compound. Then as you get closer to the last coats, you use the blue topped drywall, which is a lightweight drywall, and it's easier to smooth out and finesse the edges. So an important thing with working with drywall compound is mixing it. You definitely want to mix it up, because if you don't, you get a lot of these air pockets that end up going onto the wall, and you end up having to do a lot more sanding and a lot more coats when you do that. So what I'm going to do now is add a little skim of water on the top of this and mix it up with my my whole hog and mixer. So what I like to do when I'm doing drywall is keep things as clean and as wet as possible. If the drywall starts hardening or drying, it's going to leave little streak marks all through wherever you're taping and putting the drywall on. So I like to have a bucket available to clean let's say every 15 minutes of working time. I like to come out, clean off my trowel. I like to clean everything off, get it like stage one, like right where it is when you start off. So that's a real important thing to do. You even want to change your water every once in a while too, just to keep everything as clean as possible. Alright, so day one of drywall is completed. We got all the seams taped up and mudded. All the screw holes covered. Worked out pretty well. The upstairs, we're gonna do that separately. We're gonna do that at a different time. We're gonna staging this off and start working on the ceiling on that second floor. That's gonna need a lot of work. So we're gonna get this part done first and get it ready so Tracy can start painting. And we got the bathroom prepped up. And once this gets painted, Shane's gonna start tiling, getting this all tiled up in here. So that's good progress for the first day. Shane, that looks good over there, huh?
Came out good.
Yeah.
Only took several hours.
Yeah, it looks good though. These are prepped up for Shane's gonna do floating shelves. So we got those all sealed up. All right, so that's gonna be it for today, and tomorrow we'll go back at it and put the second coat on. All right, so it's the next day. We get the first coat all on. And so now I'm just gonna go through and just take off all the high spots. Anything that might get in the way for putting the next coat on. Everything looks pretty good. Everything's stuck really well. The first thing I'm gonna do is do the corners. Get those all done. So I wanna get a layer of drywall compound on all of these tape seams, especially in the corners, because I'm gonna still use the drywall compound that has the green top, because I wanna make sure that those joints are nice and strong. So how I like to do corners, I like to fill up the corner with a good amount of compound, making it thicker in the very corner and then kind of tapering it out. And so I fill up my trowel, my spatula, close to the end with the thickest part. Close to the end with the thickest part of the compound. And then I start from the inside corner and fill up that area. I don't push up too hard. I don't push up too hard. I kind of just make it so it stays there and I don't come out too far. And I continue doing that across the whole corner and get it prepped for the corner trowel. Any little air pockets like this here, you want to make sure those are full with compound. Because if you don't, then you get a holiday going that goes right across the whole thing. So now I'm going to grab my corner trowel, and I like to make sure this is nice and clean, like any of the other tools that I use. And I want to make sure it's nice and wet, because this helps it to pull right across the ceiling. And gives it kind of like a lubrication. Now I focus all my concern with the actual corner. I don't care about the edges, anywhere from an inch out. I just want at this point just to establish a good corner and have that nice and smooth. Because on the next coat, I'll work from here out. I just want this to be the finish coat right in that corner. Make sure that's nice and smooth. That gives it really the best look is when that corner is nice and crisp and nice and straight. Because after you can always straighten out all these edges. You can sand them, they're easy to sand. You can sand the corners too, but it's a lot easier now to get it nice and smooth and have that the finishing coat. Now I have a little left on the spatula. What I'll do is put that back on my drywall holder, keep that. But what I'll do now is put this right back in the water and get that cleaned up for the next pull across. trickiest part of a renovation like this is blending new with the old. We had to deal with taking this sheetrock down because we had to do some actually structural changes to blend the old part in with the new stairs. But now we're to the point where the new is blending in with the old. So at this point here, you start questioning whether you want to continue and just gut out a whole area or try to repair what's here. Multiple things help you make this decision. If an area like this it's insulated, I would strongly recommend just gutting it out and insulating it well. Also, if it hasn't been, the electrical hasn't been updated and recently to Romex wire, I would recommend gutting it out and redoing it. But in this case, both things have been done. This has been insulated. It has blown in insulation, you can see in that corner right there. And the wiring has been updated, I would say within the last 10-15 years. So both those things are covered. Now it's just basically just the visual aspects of it. This isn't a room, it isn't like a room that is used a lot, it's just a hallway. So that kind of weighs out. If this was a gathering area, you know, you probably would want to lean more towards gutting it out. So at this point, Shane came to the conclusion that he just wants to see if we can repair it, or at least give it a shot. If it doesn't look good, then you can always gut it after. So what we're gonna do now is try to repair these cracks, which is basically the worst part of the finish on this room. So investigating how they actually did this originally, they hung the gypsum board on the walls and on the ceiling, and they just plastered over and did not tape off any of the joints. You can see that here. So what we're gonna do is, also when they hung this, they used nails, like you can see right here, which nails over time loosen up, and it also can cause a cracking effect. So what we ended up doing is going through and securing on both sides of the cracks, and actually anywhere that there was a screwable area, we reinforced all the wallboard. And now what we're gonna do is tape over those seams and see. We have time before this needs to be painted, so we're gonna see how it reacts. If it continues to crack, then it's probably gonna be a thing. Either we take the wallboard down or we add an additional thin layer of gypsum board, which is done a lot of times in old remodels like this. So we'll see how it goes. We have time before this needs to be painted, so it's gonna give some reaction time. The other thing we did prior to starting to repair the ceiling, we scraped off all the paint that wasn't adhering and sanded that down, sanded all the cracks down to scuff it up. You can see what we had left here. Dealing with an old house, you really want to be careful because sometimes the paint can have lead in it. This didn't, we tested it, so it was good to go. This was done, I think, like in the, not sure when it was done, but the finishes I think were done in the 80s. So this is what we had left over. application of the drywall compound. I have some help today. This is Trudy, and she is my helper for today. I'm here by myself today because Shane has been sanding all week, and I got a half a day off, so I figured I would get caught up on applying the drywall, and Shane's going to continue sanding it. So the stage we're at now is we have all the rough stages, all the coverage done. So each of the joints, even though they look a little messy right now, have enough compound on them that we can actually work with it and sand it and get it smooth. Shane has got it to this point right now where it's not completely smooth, but we want to keep the build up there because now we're going to go through and we're going to use the lightweight, the blue compound or blue cover compound. And that goes on nice and smooth and fills in all the little marks like this here. So we'll be able to get that done. So I'm going to go through and apply that now. So when you apply this coat, you actually start using wider trowels. So I'm going to use this wider trowel. This is a 12-inch, and then I'm going to work my way up to a 16-inch on the butt joints like this here, where I want them to be nice and wide so it spreads out evenly and very gradual. So here again, even with the lightweight compound, I like to, when you open it, it's like a little bit like really pasty and a little bit dry. So I like to just cover the top of it with water, just to loosen it up a little bit. Just so, especially on this finish coat, you want things to be really kind of like almost soupy, just so it fills in all the cracks. I want to make sure this is as smooth and mixed as much as you can. This is a really important coat. It saves you a lot of work in the next application. A butt joint like this, I make sure there's plenty of compound on my heart. I put it centered on here and I squeeze it right across. Now when I put it on, I still put more pressure on this bottom edge, and gradually, so in exaggeration, it touches the bottom and is wider at the top, so I leave more on the joint. And then I do the opposite for the top. First want to get the stuff on there. any little pieces, any dry pieces on there will do this effect here. You'll pull it right across and you'll get a line like that. You want to try to avoid that as much as you can. That's why it's good to keep everything as clean and wet as possible to try to avoid that. But if it does happen, you just go over it again and it disappears. All right, so we get that last coat on. After this point, if there's any little voids or anything, that's going to be more of like a spackling. You'll just like kind of fine tune each of the spots. I know it looks really rough right now, but we're going to sand that, and that's going to all smoothen out. I get these corners. You want to put it on definitely pretty thick because you want to have something that you can sand. You don't want to sand it and end up exposing the tape and screw holes and everything again. The upstairs, so to kind of give you an insight on our timeline, what we're thinking of doing, I didn't do any of the drywall or compound on the second floor. Like I showed you, we had a little bit of a an opening in a day where this stuff wasn't dry yet, so we started doing the upstairs, which you saw earlier in the video. But what we're gonna do is, while we did this area first, we're gonna go through, finish all this area up, doing the drywall. Then Tracy and her mom are gonna go through and start painting all this area. And Shane's gonna start doing the tiling for this bathtub and also the floor. And while they're doing that, I can work by myself to work on this second floor area, which is going to take out kind of a lot of work. And we didn't want to mix it with this drywall here because we wanted to be able to keep progress going down here, keep Tracy and her mom busy down here, and Shane can start taking his time and getting the bathroom done. So everybody has a job and everyone's not working on top of each other. Well guys, thanks for hanging out with us today, me and Trudy. We're gonna head home now and probably get some supper ready. But you know, I'm gonna break up this video into multiple parts. Like you'll see the end result of the drywall. You get kind of the idea of how we're going about it in our, like I mentioned earlier, the timeline that we're trying to achieve. But I don't want to show you the whole process because I think that'll get kind of boring, but you get the idea. So on the next video here, you'll probably see us doing some tile work, some painting, and I'll be continuing on the second floor. But thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and we will see you on the next video. Trudy, you look bored. Are you bored?